Let the insults and sarcasm begin. You're listening to Raw Mike Richards, heard only on Newstalk Sauga 960.
So we've got something new. Now, he's not new to the show, and he's certainly not new to a lot of the listeners, as Coach Frank, as he's known, has been a good friend of the show. He's joined us on a lot of. He's been on the show talking Leafs. He's been on the show talking GTHL hockey.
Yeah,
being part of the Toronto Titans. But now we've got something called 10-Minute Misconduct with Coach Frankie DeGioia, and for that we join him in a couple seconds. First, Umberto Hotazzi.
Coach Frank, people say this. Coach Frank, people say Bastl, the hero que cazzo mel testo. He's Coach Frank, people say this. Coach Frank.
Yeah, that's what people say. Yeah, there he goes. And now we go to him for 10-minute misconduct. Let's go to Coach Frank. Morning, Coach Frank. Are you there, Coach Frank? Are you drinking in your song? Coach Frank. Hello, Coach
Franco. Where are you, Franco?
Do you enjoy your song?
Not many people can now walk around out in Toronto and say they have their own theme song. Like, that's how you know you've made it in life.
Yes.
I think.
You're right.
I don't disagree at all.
No, you totally have.
And this is, trust me, and for you, sadly, this is as good as it gets.
I didn't know the Beatles sang Italian. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, you've peaked now. Call it a day.
It's all over.
Christian will be sitting there with a little glass of scotch going, yeah, my dad peaked a little too early. Now he just sings that Umberto Hotazzi song to himself while he's doing the Pomodori. It's
Absolutely.
very. So, Frankie, I'm looking at this game last night, and as I said beforehand, I just find it strange. This series, on a nightly basis, they kind of take turns executing whatever the game plan is. There's a real inconsistency on a night-night basis, which is why I think this thing's going 7.
Hard to argue that. I think that's pretty spot on. Bruins had a game plan last night, and you know what? It's not that they weren't the better team, but right off the bat, you knew that they broke up the first line. They actually moved Danton Heinen onto the top line, and I think, you know what? For the first, I think by showing what they put on the ice first, I think the Leafs got into their head, forcing the Bruins to actually force their hand to change the lineup. It worked. And you know what? I think the momentum's back. The Leafs were the better team, but for Boston to do that, come away with 6 goals on home ice, I think this is split right down the middle. I don't think there's an advantage either way.
Sometimes, and I find this again with the inconsistency, but the coverage down low by each team, sometimes it just disappears. Like positionally where they're supposed to be, with respect to covering down low in front of their goaltender. Sometimes on each team, a guy's standing there alone. I don't understand that. I don't know why that happens, but both teams do it.
Well, that happened twice last night. Actually, that was one of the points I was going to bring up, that 2 of Boston's goals last night, and of all guys on the team, both Marchand and Pasternak got behind the defense for tap-in goals. I don't know about you, but those probably are the last 2 guys I want behind me with backdoor tap-ins. But, you're right, even from the Leafs side, Matthews by himself, right? What I noticed a lot last night more from the Leafs side is the gap control within the defensive zone was not good. In the first game, in Game 3, they did a great job of, sticks on puck, closing that gap, really not giving the top line a lot of room inside the zone. Last night was a free-for-all. I really couldn't believe how much space Marchand was creating for himself. Pasternak, especially Pasternak. Last night was a coming-out party. They were better off putting party hats on and party favors, because that was a party for Pasternak last night. So he was able to do whatever he wanted in the offensive zone. The D were backing right into the goaltender, and it was pretty much being the goal scorer he is, created a lot of traffic in front of the net. And what happened? Even a guy like Chera, he could have had a cup of coffee, and he still took a slap shot and scored. So it's not really, they really got to clamp down on the defensive coverage, get more sticks on pucks, and really play more of that man-to-man style that made him successful in Game 3.
I like the pushback from the Maple Leafs in the third period. 16 shots on goal. They score a couple to make it close. What was going through your mind there? Were you thinking tie game at one point, that this really could happen?
Well, at 5-2, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think much was coming back. The 2 goals gave you some hope, but I personally, the way they had the line set up in the last 2.5 minutes wasn't really favorable. I wasn't quite sure how they were able to get, listen, Marlowe's a Hall of Famer. He is what he is, but he was not good last night. To have something like that on the last 2 minutes, it's just more your personnel. When you got a guy like Trevor Moore, who I thought was great last night, creating energy, he drew a penalty. If you're going to have 6 guys and you're going to utilize that extra guy, you got to get guys on who are puck retrievers, getting to the net, grabbing loose pucks in front of the net. It's just I wasn't happy with the personnel, but hey, it is what it is. That's why I'm not on the other side of the bench. But they were getting pucks to the net, and honestly, I think that was a really winnable game, and they could have tied it, but it's just got to be better choices out there in the last minute.
We're in conversation with our good friend, Coach Frank. We're calling this 10-minute misconduct here on Newstalk Sauga 960. The physical aspect of what Boston does, obviously, is going to be they're a harder team. They're a slightly bigger team. And, of course, when Chara's out there, they're like the biggest team in the world. But I'm looking at Tuukka Rask, and the one thing that I think is consistent is that he is inconsistent. And his regular season showed that. But when I'm looking at the goaltending, if I'm going, goalie to goalie, I might give the Leafs a little bit of a win there. But again, I'm not bragging about Freddie being one of the top 5 goalies in the league or necessarily all world. So I think both teams kind of deal with goaltending that they don't necessarily count on. But if I have to weigh one versus the other, I probably give the nod to Freddie.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, listen, when Don Cherry says Freddie Anderson's the best in the world now,
I saw
not argue, right?
I saw that. I was like, did I just hear that?
Yeah. I think it's safe to say in the 4 games so far, I don't think I can remember a bad goal on Freddie.
Yeah.
Maybe the Chara goal, it was from outside, but there was a lot of traffic. But listen, Matthews' goal was not a world beater. He found a hole, and let's put it this way: Rask could have saved it. Mm-hmm. He's prone to that at least one a game. He hasn't been playing bad, but he is prone to that. So I would agree. I haven't seen this consistency from the Leafs of at least 30-plus shots on goal a game. Usually they're the ones being outshot, 40-20, but if they pepper more on Rask, I think there's more of a percentage that one of those bad ones are going to get in.
Yeah.
And they are getting goals from the back end. Getting the puck low to high, getting screen in front, getting a shot on net. They're going to need that in Boston. They're going to need an ugly one off a skate, off a knee. That's how it's that's how they're going to get back into the series, especially going into a hostile environment.
Nice to see Mitch Marner playing a consistent shorthanded role, eh, Frank?
Well, last night he wasn't the greatest, but you got to give him a pass on that one. The line was a -3. Both Tavares Hyman and Marner were -3. The PK was a big disappointment for me last night. I know they only had 2 power play chances, but when you go 0 for 2, especially being the team that has the least amount of penalty minutes in the league, that's not a recipe for success. As I mentioned, it was a very winnable game, but to give up 2 power play goals to Boston, which at the end of the day was the deciding factor. I think last time I checked, I think they do have the worst penalty killing percentage in the playoffs. So for me, that's a big red flag.
Do you think this thing goes the distance? Does it go 7 games, or do you think one team or the other does get on a bit of a roll and actually wins 2 in a row?
I'm going to stick to my initial prediction. I think it's the Leafs in 7. I still think they are the better team, but to win 2 in Boston out of 3. Yeah. It's a tall task.
Yeah.
It's a tall task. They're going to need some luck in Game 5. They're going to need, again, it's not the refereeing. Let's put the refereeing aside. They're going to need to get back to the whole, thing about having speed, using speed to generate chances. I thought only, a few of them were doing that last night. As I mentioned, Trevor Moore, Kapanen's got to continue to do that. I know he's not getting a lot of scoring chances, but he's got to make things happen. And listen, you can't control the top line. The Bergeron line woke up. It's inevitable, but they're going to really have to. I don't know. The line changes are not going to be in their favor, but somehow they're going to have to limit their chances. Just take away their space and keep it simple. That'd be my only, recommendation.
If the Maple Leafs win, I think their best road to a first round decision is winning Game 5. Because if you win that critical Game 5, you have that opportunity at home. There's your opportunity right there. If that doesn't happen, Man, I see, because I agree. I don't think they can win 2 games in Boston, and Game 5 is going to be the line in the sand, so to speak, for both of these organizations. Can they take that chokehold lead and finish it off in 6 for me? Well,
the last 2 years they've done that. I think 2 years ago they were down 3-1. I can't remember last year, but they won Game 5 and Game 6 in Toronto. The pressure is good, but you really want to put that on yourself every year. You have nothing left for Game 7. Game 5 is crucial. I know it's a cliche, but Game 5 is the most important game of the series now. It is what it is. Babcock can't overcoach himself. I know he's a matchup guy, but you got your guys going now. Matthews is now going. You have to get him on the ice regardless of who's out there. I think, the type of forwards and the type of skill that they have, you have more skill than the Bruins. Let them adjust to you. Don't play the game and adjust to them, because again, Cassidy has the last change. He will get Bergeron's line out there more. If I'm him, I'm probably putting him out there against the Nylander line, because it's the Nylander line, right? I guess who wouldn't put their top line against them? So let Bruins chase you, and I think they got a good shot at it.
Thanks a lot, Coach Frank. 10-minute misconduct, brand new theme song.
Yeah, now go ahead and get us a sponsor for it.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah, that sparkling water company. Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Just thinking.
I think I know of one, yeah.
Sparkling conversation, sparkling water.
Ooh, I like it.
See, that's how it works. Hey, Frank, have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks, bud.
You guys, all the best. Happy Easter.
You just got your morning drive back. Raw Mike Richards on Newstalk Sauga 960 with traffic on the 5s, featuring the best and most detailed West End traffic in the GTA. Raw Mike Richards and traffic on the 5s, exclusively on Newstalk Sauga 960.